Hello, guys. Welcome to the show. It is Elsa Kurt. I've got an awesome guest for you. In fact, we're taking a pause from the NRB convention interviews because I want you guys to see this one. This is such a great guy, and he's got a great book and a great message here for everyone. So, Mitchell Tucker, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. I'm really happy to have you on. So we have a mutual acquaintance. Your brother, it's like a funny little trail here. Your brother is friends with my son-in-law and my daughter. And my daughter was the one who told me about you. She's like, you have to have Mitchell on. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, yes. And then I kind of dropped the ball a little bit, but then I picked it up, right?
That's awesome. It's small
Oh,
world.
so you have a new book out. You have two books out. Your first one, let me mention it first, and we'll talk a little bit about it after, is Mentally Tough in a Weak Society. Boy, oh boy, do we need books like that out there right now. And your newest book is Peaceful Savage. What great title. I love that. It makes me think of, I just recently saw Jordan B. Peterson talk about, I'll misquote it and I'll say it all wrong, but basically being a monster, but having it under control. And I love things like that because it's just brilliant. So let's start talking about your book. Tell me about the book.
Yeah. So the book, funny story, but a true story. I wake up in the middle of the night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, and with the phrase peaceful savage on my brain. So I grabbed my phone and I put it in my notes because I was like, wow, that's such a cool name. I don't want to forget it. I woke up the next day and didn't have to reference my notes because it was living rent free in my brain. And it was there almost daily for like 3 months. And it's funny you mentioned Jordan Peterson because I didn't really know what peaceful savage meant. I mean, it almost sounds like an oxymoron, right? The two doesn't seem to go together. And I come across a YouTube video of Jordan Peterson, and he brought up this example. He was talking about the Bible verse that talks about the meek shall inherit the earth. And, with my Neanderthal thinking mind, I thought to myself, how does that make any sense? Like if a meek person tries to take my wallet, right? It's not going to go well for him. And that's the like Neanderthal thinking mentality that I had. And Jordan Peterson said a lot of people translate that wrong. He said, when you think of a meek person, what the Bible's referring to is someone who is just this ultimate warrior with the sword. He could cut down anyone in his path, but due to his meekness, he leaves that sword sheath. And I thought, wow, that is so incredible. And he didn't use the term peaceful savage, but when he said that, I thought to myself, that's a peaceful savage, right? And I thought that was such a credible example. And so I always had this burning desire to write a book, just like you and like many of your listeners. I'm definitely concerned about the direction of our society. And I wanted to do my part in hopefully making a small impact, a small ripple, a small difference. And that's what the book's all about. And that's how I got the name Peaceful Savage.
I love that. That's so great. And I actually saw that same message from Jordan Peterson, and I felt the same way. And boy, oh boy, things like that just impact me so much emotionally. I watched it because I'm tough. I'm tough in my own way, but man, oh man, I get brought to tears so quickly with powerful messages like that. And and I think it's because exactly what you said. We are so in need of men like yourself, like Jordan B. Peterson is talking about, and they do exist, and they're getting, it seems that they're getting silenced. I mean, we're all pretty loud, but all of these major platforms, that control the media, control social media, definitely do not want these messages out. And because of the messaging in your book, which is encouraging, is empowering, is, all of these great things that they're so against. Tell me about the process of getting your book and the first one out too, really out into the world. Has it been a challenge? What kind of resistance have you gotten because of the messaging?
Also, it was insane. It hit so many brick walls that if I didn't have the first book to compare it to, I would just think this is normal. But Mentally Tough and Weak Society, I told my father I was writing a book. And he kept saying, did you get that book out? Did you get that book out? He wanted to read the book. And I never got it out. Truth was, I never made it past the first chapter. My dad passed away, and I wrote Mentally Tough in a Weak Society in like 72 hours straight, just sat down. And to be honest, it's chock full of grammar errors. It's chock full of misspelled words. I wrote that book for me, pretty much. It was something I needed to do. And when my dad passed away, it was like a slap in the face. And I just sat down and I wrote that book, and I got it published and out in literally less than a week. But Peaceful Savage, I can't even explain to you. So initially, it was picked up by a publisher, a smaller publisher out of California. That's where my first mistake was. I was working with a company out of California, and they had the manuscript for months, and they read over it. I had to do with Zooms. There was a whole board. There's this whole process. Everybody voted on it. There was a couple people that downvoted it, but the majority voted it. And we had a launch date. They're the ones that established the launch date and everything. We had this whole marketing plan set aside, and then we had the shooting in Nashville. I believe it was Nashville, the last school shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple days after that shooting, I got contacted by the publisher, and they said, "Hey, Mitchell, due to the recent shooting, there's a lot of people on the board that decided they don't want to work with you." I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, there's an ultimatum here. They gave me a list of things they want me to tell you to take out of the manuscript. And if you're willing to take it out, then we'll work with you." And my decision was already made. I'm taking nothing out of the manuscript because I already know where this is going, right? I know it's going to be something that I believe firmly in. And what was ironic is they read the book cover to cover. And the premise of the book is to live by a standard that can never be bought, broken, or crossed. And now he's approaching me and asking me to break my standards so that I can be published with his company. And it was an incredible publishing deal. It was really going to be a great opportunity. But so to entertain him, I said, "Okay, well, send me the manuscript and let me know what you want me to take out," even though my decision was made. And I get the manuscript, and I was expecting, stuff about guns, Second Amendment, maybe a little bit more, but not much more than that. The whole manuscript's highlighted. I mean, just cover to cover in every chapter, there's something about God highlighted. There's something about Christians. There's something about Jesus. There's something about guns. There's something about the fact that they would think that it's okay for a cross-dresser to go to a middle school and perform for children. That was highlighted. That blows my mind and makes me sick to my stomach, infuriates me. So I get this manuscript, and like everything that takes a firm stand on anything that's related to God or morality is highlighted. And I called him up and I said, "You read my book, right?" "Well, I find it quite offensive that the book is on living by a standard that can never be bought, broken, or crossed. And then you come to me. Do you think I'm a hypocrite?" So the answer was absolutely not, hell no. And we self-published. Now, the incredible thing about that, it could have been a God thing, because when I put that message out there about what happened, it really fired up a lot of, patriots, a lot of people who believed in the message. And the book went #1 on Amazon for about 15 days, about 7 or 8 days straight. We dropped down a little bit, and then we went back to #1 for about 7 or 8 more days. So,
so first of all, I just get so filled with rage at the things that they do, like that, what they did to you. It's so appalling. And, but the flip side of that, it's awesome because it brings it all to light. I know when I talk to people and I tell them about, as a conservative Christian being censored and being, having my views restricted and all these types of things. And I'm like, "Oh, stop. You're just imagining it." And, it's like, no, here's proof here, like I'm talking to proof right now. I mean, I'm living proof, but I'm talking to proof right here. And it's so shocking. But the upside of that, like I said, is that it brings it all to light. And the reality is the exact opposite of what they want us to think the reality is. They want us to think that they're the majority and that, we're some kind of minority. But Amazon #1 15 days in a row tells otherwise, and it's the same thing with there's movies and programming. What was that? There was a really great movie I saw, a really sweet movie, Jesus Revolution, that came out, and it was like number 3 for, weeks and weeks and weeks. So I'm knocking things over here. But yeah, it's sending a very clear message to this crowd that they're not the majority. Tell me a little bit about that self-publishing process, because I know people like go back and forth on it. I personally love self-publishing for all the reasons you just said. I don't want somebody's hand in my book stirring up my words to make it fit their narrative. So tell me a little bit about how that went for you.
Yeah, the self-publishing process itself is relatively easy.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot to it. You just have to make sure that you have a good team behind you that can edit your books and format the book and make the cover and all that stuff, and which I had in place. The process itself isn't too difficult. The deal with Amazon is thousands of books literally get published every single day. So if you don't have a following or some kind of marketing plan or something in place, you'll put your book out there and it will never be found. So you got to have some kind of marketing. That's the biggest thing about the difference between going with a publishing company and self-publishing. The biggest deal there is the marketing aspect, at least in my opinion.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. No, you're so right. You're so right. I hate for people to be discouraged about self-publishing. Yeah, you just have to go in with the awareness that you're wearing a lot of hats. You're wearing a lot of hats. You're doing a lot of delegating of responsibilities, or literally doing things all yourself. Marketing, like you said, is the biggest one. But proof positive, it can be done and done really, really well. And so it shouldn't be a discouragement for anybody who's struggling, anybody in our lane. I mean, obviously for anyone, but anyone particularly in our lane, a conservative lane, faith-based lane, patriotic lane, all of these things that, are pure and good and right are considered bad in certain people's eyes. Doesn't it just make you shake your head like nonstop? Like I get whiplash from shaking my head.
Yeah, it blows my mind. It really does. But the Bible says that in times there'll be a lot of people fooled, and no matter how much you show them, no matter how much common sense you give them or facts or data, a lot of these people can't be convinced otherwise. And I truly believe that it's not just mindset; it's spiritual warfare. I truly believe that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Tell me, now take me back a little bit, if you don't mind, to mentally tough in a weak society. Tell me some of the things in there without giving away too much, of course. Tell me some of the tips and tools people can use in this society to kind of beat that, essentially.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I got the name Mentally Tough in a Weak Society. That name particularly popped up in my head. I'm sitting at a fancy coffee shop, an overpriced coffee shop, and I'm listening to people complain about the most ridiculous stuff I've ever heard in my life. And I thought to myself, we're sitting here in America. These people have no idea how great they got it. And we've become so soft. I was just talking to someone not too long ago. He come from America legally, got his citizenship, came here with absolutely nothing. This guy is an incredible businessman. He owns over 50 hotels, not motels, 50 hotels. Very, very wealthy. Built it from absolutely nothing. You talk to him, and America is the most incredible thing that's ever existed. It is the beacon on the hill. It is freedom. It is opportunity. But you talk to the person who was born here with a silver spoon in their mouth, and we're the most racist, bigoted, crappy country that's ever existed. It's all perspective, and it infuriates me because people don't understand what they have. And if I wish we could just ship them away for a minute and let them really experience how great they got it. So Mentally Tough in a Weak Society, it pinpoints, why we've gotten so weak and what are some things that we can do to gain that mental resilience back. And it's really a book on practicality. There's not a lot of psychology or philosophy in it. And in Peaceful Savage, there is some practicality to it. There's some things you can do, but it dives in a little bit more philosophical and psychology and stuff like that. But with Mentally Tough in a Weak Society, it's very practical. and it talks about exercises we can do and things that we can do to increase our mental resilience.
Oh, I love that. That's so awesome. And you're so right. Once again, I am the daughter and granddaughter of legal immigrants from Cuba and from Germany. And I very, very clearly remember growing up, my German grandfather, he loved Neil Diamond and America, the song America. And every 4th of July, my grandfather would turn, stereo back in the day, back in my olden days when we had stereos,
Yeah.
with the dial that you turn to turn up the volume. He would put that as loud as would go, and he would sing as loud as he could off key, and he would cry and he would get so emotional
Right.
because he understood exactly like you said. He understood what a prize, what a reward and award this country is, and a blessing to be here and to live here and to have the opportunities here. And, I always find it a little ironic that my patriotism came from an immigrant, from somebody who wasn't born here, who did not experience the full, but, and I agree. You see so many people complaining. Who's that basketball player that just spent a little vacation time in Russia? I think the Brittany something or
Yeah.
other. I think she's
Yeah.
got a little different perspective right now. Maybe I don't know. I am,
That's what I hear.
but yes, everyone who acts and believes and speaks like that should take a little visit, a little vacay
Yeah.
to one of those places. Tell me a little bit about your background. How did you where does your faith come from? I'm going to assume that it was, you were raised that way. Tell me about your faith, your patriotism, your belief system, where it all came from for you.
Yeah. I was blessed. I grew up in a great family. They drugged me to church every Sunday. And, but I think that it's something you got to find for yourself too, because you can drag your kids to church every single Sunday, and you should, but it has to be a decision they make in their own heart as well. So I grew up in church. I was interested in the military my whole childhood, military law enforcement. But as I got older, my dad was terminally ill my entire life. The doctors diagnosed him before I was born and gave him 7 years to live. And he just passed away a few years ago. But due to him, he was constantly getting life expectancies. Oh, he's got 3 months. He's got 6 months. He's got 1 year. My entire life, I heard this. And due to that, I didn't want to go in the military and be away from family. So I went to the police academy. I became a deputy sheriff. I got my conditional offer at hire at 19 years old. So I was the youngest deputy at the sheriff's office. Worked my way up to detective. I was a corporal, and I did robberies and narcotics, and thoroughly enjoyed my time in law enforcement. I came across this opportunity. My family is a family of entrepreneurs, and I was not interested at all, but I guess it was kind of engraved in me when I was younger. But as I got older, I started having this burning desire for entrepreneurship. And I came across this opportunity. We won't go into all the details there, but it was a project I was working on, and I needed to get a patent for it. And I came across this entrepreneur, very, very successful, and does a lot of stuff in the online space. And long story short, he said, I needed about 100 grand to get everything up and running. And he said, look, you have a successful career. If I give you this 100 grand, how do I know you won't just blow it? And you lost nothing. I lost my 100 grand, and you're still a cop. You lost. They literally put nothing up on the table. So I'm like, you're right. So I went home that day. I talked to my wife. Didn't sleep at all, hardly. The next day, I woke up and I quit my career. And
Wow.
I went into entrepreneurship full force. That was December in 2017, December
Wow.
20th, 2017. So that was my plunge into entrepreneurship and how I got out of law enforcement. I went back into law enforcement not just as a reserve deputy. It was an unpaid position because I really did miss law enforcement. I still miss it every day. I feel like it's you are a cop. It's not what you do, it's who you are, kind of. And so I do miss law enforcement, but I had this burning desire to entrepreneurship. And when I dove in, it was full force, because it's like, look, I have a mortgage. At the time, I was married with 2 kids and 0 ways to pay bills. So I really dug deep into entrepreneurship and mentally tough in a weak society. A lot of the stuff that I talk about in there was exercises and things I thought about and did when I'm trying to grow my business and I'm looking for this income that was non-existent, you know? So that's kind of my story of how I went from law enforcement into entrepreneurship. As far as my faith goes, I never really got out of church, but it was almost just a routine. It was just something I did, right? It was expected of me. I knew it was the right thing to do. It wasn't until I got much older that I didn't go to church because of my mom. I didn't go to church because it was expected of me. I went to church because I want to go to church because I want to have a relationship with God. And I think that's important to have that transition in your own life. If you're going to church and you're reading your Bible and you're doing things because it's what's expected of you from other people, there's no true relationship there, and it's kind of vague, you're kind of void.
Yeah, you know what? So I did not grow up in a religious or faith-based household. Church was not part of our routine. So I'm like the black sheep here. I'm the oddball who discovered and really started exploring my faith later in life, just like you said. And yeah, I think there's really something to that because I do know, I have a lot of friends who same thing as you, went to church every Sunday because it was what they were supposed to do. And they don't really have that relationship with God because I think maybe it gets taken for granted or something,
Yeah.
or just not really like it's that obligation thing. You just go, you sit, you listen, you go home, and that's the end of it. And I think that's the case kind of maybe in their lives. And so my experience with it is a little different. And so I'm like that. I'm like that kid on Christmas morning, just opening these presents with absolute glee and joy and excitement. So it's a really cool journey, and I always love hearing other people's stories and how. And I'm always a little envious of people who were raised that way because you just know so much more. Like you can quote scripture and all the things. I'm a little bit envious, I have to admit.
Yeah, it's I can see where you're coming from, but there's another perspective there too. When you find God later in life, there's that such an aha moment because for me, I grew up in it. It was just I always knew it. There was nothing special there. And it's at least that I didn't feel like there was, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? But when you
Sure.
come to know God and you didn't know him and it's like boom, it's all at once. It's such an incredible like aha moment. And I see that in a lot of people who come to God later in life. They're like
Mm.
so excited and so on fire, and I'm like, I want that. How do you get that? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so cool. Um, so let's talk a little bit more about Peaceful Savage. Now you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. Um, that has kind of parlayed into something more, right? Like is that part of because you're a speaker as well. So you go and you talk to different groups and people about these things. Tell me a little bit about that experience and what you do and what that's like for you.
Yeah. So I enjoy speaking a lot. Right before COVID hit, actually right after Mentally Tough and Weak Society, I started speaking. It started off in the local high schools. They heard about the book. They called me, asked me to come and speak with the kids. And I found out, oh my gosh, I got a passion for this. I truly love this. And so started doing more speaking. I ended up speaking like a ridiculous amount of times, like 12 times in like 3 months. And
Mm.
then COVID hit and everything plummeted. I'm like, hey, I'm still willing to speak. And they're like, no, we're not doing nothing. I called everyone. No one was booking speakers. And I didn't have enough experience to transition to start doing virtual engagements, virtual Zooms. So it kind of just crushed it. Well, then COVID dies down, and I want to get back into speaking. I went as far as hired a very respectable speaking coach, very successful speaking coach, does this for a living. And I noticed something funny. He asked me to put together the speech and get up and speak in front of him. And he's a Christian. He believes the same way we believe. He's an incredible guy, patriot. But when I'm speaking, he's like, Mitchell, you can't say that. Mitchell, you got to take that out. And he's like, look, Mitchell, I believe in you and I believe everything you're saying and I support you 100% and I love that message. But Wells Fargo, Bank of America, these companies aren't going to hire you. So he
Mm,
said, you have to figure out what you want to do, Mitchell. If you want to be a speaker, then you have to speak on these topics. He said, now you can speak on those topics. There's Turning Point USA, and there's a very small group of people who will hire you, but you're going to niche yourself down so heavy that it's going to be very hard to find speaking engagements. And I struggled with that for a long time because I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong by not speaking about it.
mm,
Because he said, every time I get off the stage, people approach me and say, thank you for sharing your message. And I can tell you're a Christian. He said, so you can share things without saying them directly. So that's what
mm,
he was telling me. And like I said, I have a bunch of respect for this guy. It's not a dig on him, but I noticed that I got less and less and less interested in speaking,
mm,
at least in that way. I enjoy speaking. I absolutely love it, but I don't want to curate my message to give the traditional like, hoorah, you can do it. It's all about mindset. I don't want to give that shallow crap, right?
mhm.
We have some seriously bad things happening in our country right now. And if we're not getting up and talking about it, if we're just going to sit up there and talk about shallow garbage, that's just going to motivate people. As soon as the music dies, they go back to living their same crappy life. I don't want to be that person. So I started transitioning and doing more online. And that's kind of how, I don't know if you've heard of the Peaceful Savage Nation. It's an online community that we launched actually just a few days ago. We did a soft launch. And I built the platform out very similar to Facebook. That way it's very user friendly. Anyone can get in there and they know exactly how to use the system right off the bat. And there's zero censorship. And everyone gets their own viewship. There's no algorithm to mess with anybody. And so we launched that on the 22nd. And my hopes is that this online community can really make an impact. I've got a lot of high hopes for it.
I'll be signing up as soon as we end this interview. Like literally the minute we say bye, I'm gonna go sign up. That's really, really cool.
Awesome.
And we're craving that. We really are, and I love your integrity. I love your integrity with your stance on your book and your refusal to back down and cater to them, because like you said, that was a really great deal for you. And they would have just taken so much off of your plate as far as having to do on your own. And who knows, all of those things. And I love that you're like, yeah, no, that does not doesn't represent me. It's not who I am. It's not who I'm doing. And I love that you did the same thing with the speaking. And I agree with you. I think the messages that impact people the most are the ones that are the most authentic. If you're doing a cookie cutter speech that anybody else can do, and where's your value? It's okay to niche down. That's my opinion. I think it's more than okay to niche down, because you know who your audience is, you know who you're talking to, and you know who wants to listen. And you're always going to get those people that just come in to be combative and argue with you, and that's great. I found out that I actually love that. I'm like, bring it,
Yeah.
just bring it.
Feels it.
Yeah, right. You can send them running with their tail between their legs pretty quick as soon as you throw a handful of facts at them. Then they don't want to play anymore, right?
Right. Exactly.
So tell everybody. So your websites. If you're doing any speaking engagements, all of those things, tell everybody where they can find you, your books, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So as far as the book goes, you just go to Amazon, type in Peaceful Savage. It should pop up first there. So if you haven't got the book, I would strongly suggest you go check it out. Look, it wasn't about the money. I launched the ebook version for 99 cents. I'll never make the amount of money that got put into the book. I just want to share the message. I think the message is a strong message. I think it's a message that needs to get out there. And I greatly appreciate the support if it's something you decide to get. If you do, reach out to me and let me know what you thought of the book. As far as the online community, if you go to peacefulsavage.com, there is information about the online community. It was launched by myself and retired Navy SEAL Jimmy Watson, who I think you would really align with. He's a great guy. Maybe we can get him on the show for you as well. He's got an incredible story.
That would be great.
And we're super passionate. We really align well with this because both of us, we could have done other opportunities to make more money. I could have removed this stuff out of the book and launched with the book and certainly made a lot more money. There's opportunities he had where he could have made a lot more money. Now, we all need to make a living, right? So that's obviously an aspect of it. But we both are so impact driven that it was such a perfect alignment when me and him started working together, because we're like, look, if it will, every decision, every business decision we make, we're like, okay, first it's how much impact can it make? And then, okay, how much is it going to cost us? If it's going to make impact, we're doing it. And I'm really pumped and really excited about it. I hope the community grows and then we can network together. I'm really excited.
That is so damn cool. Every part of that is so damn cool. Now I'm going to throw something out to the universe and to you specifically. And I honestly don't know, guys who are watching, and gals, of course, anyone who's watching. We did not have this conversation beforehand, so I don't know what the answer is going to be here. But I'm going to throw this out to you in the universe that I feel like the Peaceful Savage podcast has a gorgeous ring to it. And any thoughts, plans, ideas of doing something along those lines? And if so, I want to be a guest.
Yeah, I absolutely. I would love the idea. I love the idea of that. Right now, in the near future, probably not. But as the membership and things start running smoothly, and everything's up and running good there, then I would love that. I think that's a great idea.
That's awesome. I know. Listen to me. I'm like, let me just throw more things on your plate. Why not? Why not? It's not like you have like 50 other things going on, and you're actually really still in the middle of this book launch for Peaceful Savage, right? I mean, you've still got, a lot of marketing and stuff that you're working on. And here I am throwing, hey, do a podcast too while you're at it. Maybe I could.
Yeah, no, I still do. I do videos
too.
Yeah, right. I do videos, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I do more shorts than I do long form stuff. But I would like to start doing some interviews and stuff with some other creators who are like-minded, because look, there is power in numbers, and I want to get we all need to get the message out. And by linking arms and doing that together, I think we can definitely make a bigger impact for sure.
That is so true. That is so true. Well, I look forward to seeing more from you. I look forward to collaborating with you maybe in the future. We could we both do the short form reel. Was it reels, TikToks, shorts? All everybody has a different name for it, but we'll have to come up with something that'd be actually really fun. And is there another book in the works? Do you think? Is there another one in the tank?
I have a thought for another book, but I haven't started at all. It's going to probably be a little while before I start on it.
All right. Well, we'll definitely get you back on, and you can share that stuff, and keep us posted on all the good things. In the show's notes, guys, we will have all of the links for Mitchell's stuff, his website, his books, everything you talked about, his social media. All those things, you'll be able to go find them nice and easy. Mitchell Tucker, thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with me and sharing all this great stuff.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate the opportunity.
Anytime. And I mean that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week. We'll be resuming with some of the NRB convention interviews, and I hope you enjoy them. As always, throw something in the comments and let me know what you thought. And don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care. Hey guys, thanks for watching today's show. Any links mentioned in the show will be in the notes. And if you're looking for a new book to read, why not check out one of my books? They're all available on Amazon.com and, of course, at elsakurt.com.